How's it going, America? Welcome back to the Unfiltered AM channel. Before we jump into today's story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on more exciting content. Alright, let's not waste any time. Let's get straight to the story. Donald Trump was flipping through briefing notes in his Mar-a-Lago office when an unusual envelope arrived. No security markings, no fanfare. Inside was a sleek, embossed card inviting him to a bipartisan event in Dallas focused on unity, civility, and the American future. The keynote speaker? Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, a progressive Democrat known for fiery speeches and sharp criticisms of Trump-era policies. At first, he laughed. "They want me to sit through that," he said to his aide. But as the day went on, he couldn't shake the idea. Something about the invitation felt different. He reread it multiple times, noting the handwritten note at the bottom. Change doesn't start an agreement, it starts in the room together. It wasn't signed, but Trump suspected it came from an old Republican friend who'd quietly drifted to the center. In a move that shocked even his closest advisors, Trump told his team to RSVP with a yes. "Let's go see what this is about," he said. "If it's a trap, I'll know. If it's real, who knows?" The news would leak in hours, but Trump didn't care. For once, he wanted to show up without the media knowing what to expect. As soon as Trump's attendance was confirmed, cable news networks lit up. The idea of Trump and Jasmine Crockett under the same roof stirred both fascination and outrage. Social media turned into a battleground. Some called it a stunt, others called it history in the making. Protest groups mobilized, while organizers scrambled to increase security. Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett was reviewing her speech at her kitchen table in Oak Cliff, sipping green tea. Her phone buzzed non-stop with warnings, advice, and emotional texts from colleagues. "You know he's only going to use this against you, right?" one friend warned. Jasmine stared at the screen for a moment, then muted it. She wasn't doing this for optics. Something told her this was bigger than politics. That evening, alone in her room, Jasmine revised her speech. She added a story about her grandmother, a woman who once baked extra cornbread just in case unexpected guests showed up, even if those guests had once wronged her. "Kindness isn't weakness," her grandmother used to say. Jasmine smiled, added the line to her closing, and shut her laptop. She had no idea that same quote would be trending on Twitter within 24 hours. The Dallas Convention Center buzzed with tension. Metal detectors clicked non-stop as lines formed. Protesters stood outside with signs ranging from "Unity Now" to "Don't Normalize Hate." Inside, journalists positioned their cameras, all waiting for one man's entrance. When Trump finally arrived, it wasn't the usual flash of red carpets and MAGA hats. It was low-key, almost somber. Trump wore a navy blue suit, no tie, and a plain American flag pin. His usual bravado seemed subdued. He waved politely to a few surprised guests but didn't stop for interviews. Jasmine, watching from backstage, turned to her aide and whispered, "He looks smaller." But even as she said it, something tugged at her instincts. Maybe it wasn't weakness. Maybe it was age, or the weight of being misunderstood. Just before the event started, Trump made a detour. He asked to visit the green room, not for refreshments, but to quietly shake hands with the event staff. "I know what it's like to work behind the scenes and get no credit," he said to a young black sound technician. That moment was caught on a staffer's phone and would later go viral as the human side of Trump. But for now, no one outside that room knew. The program opened with a video montage. Childhood photos of both Trump and Jasmine played side by side. The audience chuckled at baby pictures, but also fell quiet at the contrast. Trump, raised in privilege, learning to hustle from his father. Jasmine, raised in a modest Dallas neighborhood, marching with her mother at civil rights rallies. Two paths, two Americas, both now sharing a stage. Backstage, Jasmine's heart raced. She wasn't nervous about speaking. She'd done that 100 times. What she felt now was something deeper. The sense that her words could actually change someone. Not everyone, maybe not even Trump, but someone. Her speech wasn't about pandering or debating. It was about reminding people that beneath the noise, we all carry scars. Meanwhile, Trump sat with arms crossed, eyes on the stage. A flash of recognition crossed his face when a photo of young Jasmine holding a Justice for All sign appeared. Something about the fire in her 10-year-old eyes made him think of Ivanka at that age. He blinked, shifted in his seat, and suddenly felt, just for a second, out of his depth. Jasmine stepped onto the stage with calm energy, wearing a simple blue dress and no jewelry except for a small gold pin shaped like the state of Texas. She opened not with political slogans, but with a question. When was the last time you listened to someone you disagreed with, and didn't try to change them? The audience hushed. Even Trump leaned in. She shared a story about the first time she lost a case in court. Instead of being angry, she thanked the judge and opposing counsel, saying she'd learned something. Because grace isn't about being right, it's about being real. There was silence, then scattered applause. Then a voice from the back shouted, "Tell the truth, sister." Laughter broke the tension. What no one expected, least of all Jasmine, was Trump clapping. It wasn't dramatic or performative. Just 2 slow claps, then a third. He stopped himself after a moment, but it was enough. The cameras caught it. Jasmine caught it. And everyone in the room felt the ripple. Something rare, something raw, had just happened. And the night was only beginning. As Jasmine continued her speech, she glanced toward Trump. Their eyes met, not in confrontation, but in something closer to recognition. She didn't flinch, and neither did he. That brief moment, charged and silent, felt like 2 worlds colliding, not to destroy each other, but to see what was left after the dust settled. She smiled, just slightly, and Trump gave a subtle nod. In the crowd, reactions were mixed. A few gasped, some murmurs, even a shouted, "Don't fall for it!" from the back. But Jasmine wasn't falling for anything. She was leaning into her truth. She spoke of her community, her family, the pain of being ignored, and the joy of being heard. "My people don't need pity," she said. "We need partnership." Backstage, Trump's communications director leaned toward him. "You okay?" Trump didn't answer. He was lost in thought, staring at the stage like it was a courtroom and he was the one on trial. The way Jasmine used her words, it wasn't political theater. It was something else. And for the first time in a long time, Trump wasn't sure if he was the one delivering a performance or watching someone else do it flawlessly. After Jasmine's speech ended, polite applause turned into a standing ovation for most of the crowd, except for a handful of attendees near the back wearing MAGA hats. Trump stayed seated at first, arms folded. But then, slowly, he stood, not clapping, just standing. The cameras caught it. The audience froze for a second. Then someone whispered, "Is he about to speak?" Instead of heading straight to the podium, Trump did something unexpected. He walked across the stage, directly to Jasmine. The moderator rushed toward them, but Trump waved him off. "May I?" he asked Jasmine, gesturing toward the microphone. She looked at him, paused, and then nodded. What happened next would become one of the most replayed moments in political media that year. Trump didn't launch into a rally cry. He didn't insult anyone. Instead, he cleared his throat and said, "I disagreed with almost everything she said, but damn if that wasn't one of the best speeches I've ever heard." A few people laughed, but others stared in disbelief. "And maybe," he added, "that's what America needs right now, someone who reminds us how to listen." The event transitioned into a panel discussion, but everyone in the room could feel the energy shift. Trump didn't stay on stage. Instead, he and Jasmine sat in the front row, side by side. Neither smiling, neither tense, just neutral. At one point, Trump leaned over and whispered something no mic picked up. Jasmine turned her head slightly, her face unreadable. Whatever he'd said caught her off guard. She gave a tiny shake of her head and chuckled under her breath. Later, in a private interview, Jasmine would reveal the line, "My mother would have liked you better than she liked me." The remark wasn't just self-deprecating, it was strangely vulnerable. That line humanized Trump in a way no press secretary could manage. People on Twitter speculated it was staged, but staffers in the room confirmed. He hadn't told anyone he'd say it. Jasmine, later that evening, told her husband, "He's still who he is, but something shifted in him tonight." Her husband responded, "Maybe you're the first person who didn't try to beat him, just reach him." By the next morning, clips from the event were everywhere. CNN, Fox News, even late-night comedy shows. Some networks framed Trump's reaction as softening. Others accused him of being manipulated by the left. But the real story wasn't about sides, it was about something rare: mutual respect in an age of shouting. Trump's advisors were divided. Some were furious. "You gave her a platform," one staffer snapped. "No," Trump responded. "She already had one. I just finally stood still long enough to hear it." That quote landed on the front page of several newspapers. Even critics had to admit, it was one of the most self-aware things he'd ever said in public. Meanwhile, Jasmine received flowers at her office the next day. No card, no note. Just white lilies. Her assistant joked, "That's gotta be from him." Jasmine raised an eyebrow. "I don't think he's a flowers kind of guy." Still, she quietly moved the vase to her desk. When a reporter asked her if they'd ever speak again, she replied, "If he's willing to listen, I'm always willing to talk." Days later, a clip surfaced, an off-the-record conversation accidentally picked up by a hot mic at the Dallas event. It featured Trump speaking to a Republican donor backstage. "That woman made me feel something I hadn't felt since 2016. Uncertainty," he said. "And maybe that's not a bad thing." The internet exploded. Hashtag #TrumpUnfiltered trended. Supporters were confused. Opponents were curious. And Jasmine? She simply watched the clip once, then turned off her phone. "He doesn't owe me agreement," she said to a colleague. "But if he finds humility, America wins." That line would later be used in campaign ads, by both sides. In a final twist, a leaked memo showed that Trump's team began drafting a new speech, one focused not on victory, but on shared values. Nobody knew whether he'd actually deliver it. But one thing was clear: Jasmine Crockett didn't just deliver a speech. She cracked something open. And no one, not even Trump himself, knew what might come out next. A week after the Dallas event, Jasmine received a personal letter. Not an email, not a staffer-drafted statement. An actual handwritten note. It was from Trump. The message was brief. "You made me think. That doesn't happen often. If you're ever in Mar-a-Lago, dinner's on me. Donald." Jasmine laughed when she read it. "Is this real?" she asked her team. They confirmed it came straight from his hand. She didn't say yes right away. The political risks were obvious. Accepting the invitation could paint her as naive, or worse, a sellout. But something in her gut told her this wasn't about politics. It was about influence. About proximity to power. About whether she could use a crack in the wall to kick it wide open. After a long weekend of reflection, she told her assistant, "Book a flight to Florida. I want to see this through." When she arrived at Mar-a-Lago, the media had no idea. It was a private dinner. Just her, Trump, and 2 glasses of sweet tea. "No cameras," he said. "No press." Jasmine was ready for games. But Trump surprised her again. He listened, truly listened, as she spoke about racial inequity, education, and healthcare deserts. "I never hear it like this," he admitted. "Maybe I've never wanted to," she replied. "Or maybe no one's dared to make you listen." The shock wasn't that they disagreed. It was how much common ground they unexpectedly found. 2 days after the private dinner, a blurry photo of Jasmine and Trump seated at Mar-a-Lago leaked to the press. No context. Just the image. Social media exploded. Some called her a traitor. Others called Trump a changed man. Conspiracy theories flew in every direction. Was she being recruited? Was he trying to soften his image for 2028? Back in D.C., Jasmine faced intense heat from her own party. One colleague texted, "Tell me this isn't real." Another posted a cryptic tweet, "Power doesn't mean principle." But Jasmine refused to be rattled. At a press conference the next morning, she stepped up to the mic and said, "Dialogue is not betrayal. Silence is." The crowd went silent. Then, slowly, applause began. From the most unlikely of places. Later that day, a second leak surfaced, a clip of Trump defending Jasmine to one of his inner circle. "She's not weak. She's real. And we need more of that if we're gonna survive." The media flipped. Opinion pieces flooded the airwaves. Some called it a PR stunt. But others started to wonder, was this a new chapter in Trump's evolution, or just a brief, baffling detour? Just when the dust began to settle, a chilling email arrived at Jasmine's office. No sender name. No return address. Just 5 words. Stop talking to him. Or else. Her team immediately called security. The FBI got involved. Threats weren't new to Jasmine, but this one felt different. It was a warning aimed not at her ideas, but at her influence. Jasmine went public with it. On national television, she held up a copy of the threat and said, "If fear is your weapon, I suggest you sharpen it. Because I will not back down." The crowd roared. Even some Republicans, ones who had previously dismissed her, called to offer support. The surprise? Trump himself called her that night. "I've had threats too," he said. "You stay safe." "I mean it." That call led to a second conversation. And then a third. They weren't becoming friends, but something even rarer in modern politics. Constructive rivals. Jasmine began to wonder if this strange chapter in her life wasn't just about crossing the aisle, but about rewriting what the aisle meant in the first place. The White House, sensing the cultural moment, invited Jasmine to speak at a national unity summit alongside former presidents and civil rights leaders. It was historic. She wore a deep emerald green suit, a color her grandmother once told her meant strength without shouting. The room was packed. Trump, surprisingly, was seated in the front row. Her speech was fearless. America doesn't need perfect leaders. It needs honest ones. Brave enough to admit when they've been wrong, and strong enough to walk toward people they don't understand. She paused. And yes, even toward those they once feared. The audience was silent. Even the camera operators seemed frozen, waiting for the next words. Then she looked straight at Trump and said, "You taught me that even stone walls can echo, if someone dares to speak loud enough." The crowd broke into applause, not because she praised him, but because she challenged him, live, with grace. Trump didn't flinch. He nodded. Later, when asked by a reporter how it felt, he replied, "She punched me with truth and shook my hand after. I'll take that over fake flattery any day." Back at Capitol Hill, things began to shift. Jasmine's rise made some of her own party members uncomfortable. Her willingness to engage across enemy lines sparked quiet resentment. One senior Democrat told the press, "We're not here to rehabilitate Donald Trump." Jasmine didn't flinch. "I'm not trying to rehabilitate anyone. I'm trying to resurrect conversation." Meanwhile, a small but growing faction of younger Republicans began citing Jasmine in their speeches. One congressman said, "I disagree with 80% of what she believes, but I trust her 100% more than I trust most of my own side." That quote hit headlines. Jasmine, somehow, had become both controversial and unifying, depending on who was watching. The biggest shock came when rumors spread of a bipartisan caucus forming behind closed doors, with Jasmine and a surprising Republican co-chair at the helm. The name? The Echo Project. Its mission? Amplify unheard voices on both sides of the aisle. Jasmine had started with a speech. Now she was starting a movement. Just when Jasmine thought she had built a bridge strong enough to withstand politics, the floor shifted beneath her. A video surfaced, heavily edited, showing a private moment from her dinner with Trump. It was spliced to make it appear as though she praised his past presidency. "Leadership, even flawed, deserves our ear," the video quoted her. It cut out the rest. Her strong criticisms, her demands for accountability, her fire. The footage went viral. The backlash was immediate. "Jasmine Crockett has sold out," one progressive influencer tweeted. Even her closest allies began distancing themselves. The shock wasn't that someone leaked the footage. It was who did it. An anonymous whistleblower inside her own party. Someone who felt she was becoming too powerful, too fast. Trust, the very thing she had risked her career to build, was weaponized against her. But Jasmine didn't spiral. Instead, she called a press conference the very next day and played the full version of the video on a large screen. The room went silent. "Don't ever let a half-truth define a whole person," she said, locking eyes with the cameras. The applause returned, not just from her base, but from Americans across the spectrum who had grown tired of weaponized narratives. The betrayal had failed, but it had taught her one thing. Unity was powerful, but it was also dangerous to the powerful. Months later, Jasmine was invited back to Dallas, this time to deliver the keynote at a national unity convention, the very stage where it all began. The arena was larger now. The stakes were higher. She looked out at the sea of faces, diverse, skeptical, hopeful. And then, just before she took the mic, an aide rushed to her side. "Trump's in the audience," they whispered. "Unannounced. No cameras." Jasmine's breath caught, but she nodded. "Good. Let him hear," she began. "I once stood on this stage and saw tears from a man I never thought would listen. And now, I speak to every person who's ever been told to stay in their lane, lower their voice, or wait their turn. You are the turn." Her words thundered across the room. The crowd rose. Phones flashed. But the most unexpected thing happened next. Trump stood up, clapped, and placed his hand over his heart. No press. No posturing. Just a quiet, respectful gesture. After the speech, Jasmine stepped off the stage, her heart pounding. Trump walked over, no entourage, no microphones, and simply said, "You changed something in me. I don't know what to do with it yet, but it's there." Jasmine smiled. "That's your work to do. Mine was just to light the match." And in that surreal human moment, two political titans, once enemies, shared the most un-American thing of all in today's climate: mutual growth.